What's going on?
Woo.
Welcome in to another episode of the Fantasy Football Fellas podcast. It is Lucas and Cameron hanging out tonight.
Yes, sir.
Recording on Monday, November 7th, right before Monday Night Football between the Saints and the Ravens. Make sure you follow in all of our socials. Before we dive into anything, we're the FF Fellas. That's false. We're FF Fellas on Twitter, the FF Fellas on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on TikTok and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Notifications are turned on when we're releasing new videos literally every single day. And to our podcast as well. Subscribe to the podcast.
Of course.
And join our Chalkboard as well. If you want unsolicited, as many tips and tricks in fantasy football that you could want, join our Chalkboard. We got a lot of new things coming out over there. So make sure you join there. We got week 9 just about in the books here. We're going to recap all of Sunday's action. We're going to have a few waiver wire ads at the end as well. But let's cover some news and notes from this weekend, Cameron. Cameron, how are you, by the way? I'll let you get your 2 cents in here.
I'm doing pretty good. We were talking before. I was pretty sick last week, so that was tough. But we're recovering now, feeling much better, and just ready to talk some football. I think that kind of sums up how I'm feeling.
Yeah. Yep. Well, we're glad to have you back. Glad you've bounced back from your illness. Obviously not fun to be sick, but we're glad to have you back here on the pod this week.
Yep.
Big news that came out today on Monday. Frank Reich got the can. And former Colts center Jeff Saturday is now the interim coach for the Indianapolis Colts. Talk about head scratching.
Yeah, I really think I think me and you agreed on it. To us, it feels like we're ready to tank. We're going to put someone in at head coach who is, liked by the fans. They're not going to get upset at us. We're going to sit Matt Ryan. We're going to give Jonathan Taylor 2 more weeks for his ankles bugging him, shut him down for the season. That's just what it feels. That's what it feels like. Maybe they're trying to run the table or something. I don't know, but it definitely feels like they're getting ready to bite the bullet the rest of the season.
I don't. What did Frank Reich do to deserve this? He had no Jonathan Taylor. The front office traded him Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Like, this is the biggest scapegoat example I think I might have ever seen, because you're going to tell me Frank Reich should have been able to put a winning record out there with no Jonathan Taylor, Sam Ehlinger at quarterback. Granted, it's only been 2 weeks, but this just made no sense to me. And then you bring in Jeff Saturday, who has no coaching experience.
Yeah.
And then Frank Reich was the one calling the plays.
I know.
They don't even have a play caller on this team anymore. I don't understand this at all whatsoever. Baffling to say the least. So,
yeah.
By the way, news and notes from around the league brought to you by our friends over at Sleeper. Totally forgot to say that at the beginning. Number 1 fantasy football platform in the world. Make sure you can come play with us over on Sleeper, down in the link of the audio podcast or YouTube video you are listening to. Second piece of news here. PJ Walker still on track to start Thursday night against Atlanta. Was pulled on Sunday. I'm not taking too much away from this. I mean, it's Baker Mayfield or PJ Walker. I would just rather keep the momentum with PJ Walker. This Carolina team is a mess anyway. So what do they have to lose? It's not like you're starting PJ Walker anyways.
No, I hope not. Last week he had -1 points.
Yeah, you should not have been starting him last week at all, ever.
No.
Josh Allen suffering elbow discomfort right now. He shouldn't miss time. It is something to monitor, though. I mean, his quote after the game was, well, it's tough to win when your quarterback plays like doo-doo in the toilet, to
PG it.
PG it a little bit here. Josh Allen, it's just something to keep track of. He should play. He should be fine. But, yeah, that's something to track moving forward. That's not what you want to hear if you're a Josh Allen manager.
For sure, because it could definitely be nothing, but we also heard that with Stafford, and had elbows discomfort, then all of a sudden turned into something huge. I don't think it's going to be like that, but it is something to just be aware of, that it is, it's out there.
Right. Romeo Doubs expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. This is just bad news. Right when the Packers suck, they lose a top weapon.
Yeah.
I
I don't
mean,
understand this team at all.
this Packers team is just beyond confusing. Lost to the Lions 9-16 on Sunday. Just, I at least Aaron Jones escaped unscathed. Tests were negative this morning. He should be able to play this upcoming week. He left yesterday's game with an ankle injury. He even left in a boot. So I'm
Yeah.
surprised tests came back negative this week.
Yeah.
Then Sean McVay came out and said changes will be made when asked about the Rams offense. I don't know, like, what are you going to change? Not throwing Cooper Kupp the football? Giving one
Yeah.
running back all the touches? Like, I don't, like, what's going to change, Sean?
The only thing I could think of is they shift up the offensive line because it's been terrible.
That has to be it.
You gotta. I feel like you have to do something, or maybe you're just changing your pass protection, and you're keeping a tight end in every game because Stafford has no time to throw the ball ever. And they don't get any rushing done.
No, and I don't think Sean McVay wants to go back to a bell cow running back mentality. Not with this offensive line, and like throwing the ball to Cooper Kupp like works. Like he should recognize that. So it has to be the offensive line.
Yeah,
because it isn't going to be the running backs. Excuse me, and it'll probably be the offensive line. That would be that's my only guess.
And McVay also said, I think it was about a week ago, his future in LA is tied to Aaron Donald, Matt Stafford, and Cooper Kupp. So when they're gone, he's gone.
I mean,
so that's another interesting thing to keep out thinking about LA. They could be in trouble here in a couple of years.
I mean, let alone right now if they're not going to make the playoffs this year.
Well, and they have no picks ever.
Nope. No, it's going to be a brutal stretch coming up here for LA if they can't get their act together.
That's for sure.
On the other side of the ball, though, in the Rams game yesterday, Tom Brady, Father Brady, surpassed 100,000 career passing yards. Congratulations to you, Tom Brady. My second father. I love you, Dad. I know you listen to the podcast. I love you. You will always be my father. This is just the running joke, though. Father Brady.
He's had a rough couple of weeks, so I think he needed the win in the game and something
to lift him up a little bit.
Yeah,
something
personal life, and then losing to the Panthers and Steelers back-to-back weeks. It's needed something.
Needed something. News and notes brought to you by our friends over at Sleeper, the number one fantasy football platform in the world. If you want to join over 4 million people who all play fantasy football together, play in their daily drafts. They just launched that new daily draft. If you want to go over there and do some daily drafts, you can do that. They do some player props over there as well. Anyways, 4 million people participating in that. You can do that using the link down in the description of the audio podcast or YouTube video you are listening to. Let's recap week 9.
Yes, sir.
Let's recap week 9. We had some very, very big performances, but also it kind of felt like the whole season thus far.
Yeah.
You have one big performance, but everybody else was just okay.
All right. Yeah.
So we want to start highlighting a few trends from over the past 5 weeks. We are halfway through the season at this point. So before we even launch into any booms and busts, these are both booms and busts. We want to talk about some trends from over the past 5 weeks. We'll do that right before each positional category. And Cameron, I'll let you kind of take those over before we dive into those. So let's start with running backs. We'll get into the booms of the week, but some trends we've been noticing over the past 5 weeks.
Yeah, so these are over the past 5 weeks. And I did everything in points per game, obviously, because we got buys and stuff happening. So you don't want to dock a player just because they got a buy. Over the last 5 weeks, so Austin Eckler averaging 30.3 points per game. I think this is, for me, all this screams is you don't panic on your studs in the first 3 weeks unless they're like Najee Harris and visually give you something to really panic about. Right? People were saying we got to get rid of Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler's having a CMC type season right now, the way he's been playing.
Yes.
Next thing is Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, or Ramondre Stevenson were all given an opportunity and are all top 10 backs in the last 5 weeks in points per game. Ramondre and Walker both averaging over 20 points per game in PPR. Etienne at 19.6. These guys are the real deal. They took the opportunity and they're not letting go. And then again, talking about don't panic on your studs, Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, and Christian McCaffrey, all top 10. All of these guys people are freaking out about, and now they're top 10. I don't know how much more times we can say, don't panic on your stars.
they'll get off to slow starts. It's kind of
Yeah.
inevitable, right? And maybe I don't know. You can say, well, they shouldn't because they're studs, right? But like I don't know. We like through the first 3 weeks, it was just like, oh my gosh, Eckler, he looks awful. Oh my gosh, Henry, he looks
Yep.
awful. Oh my gosh, Dalvin Cook, he looks awful. It's just like, hold on.
Yeah.
Can we just slow down for a second and just recognize these dudes were drafted in the first round for a reason, and they all had reasons to not panic on them,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, no, that's good to note. Good trends to pick up on over the past 5 weeks, and some of these will be really good as we move down the line as well. Number one guy we need to talk about this week, the history maker himself, Joe Mixon.
Ooh.
22 rushing attempts for 153 yards, averaging 7 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns on the ground, added one through the air as well on 4 receptions for 58 yards, 55 fantasy points. 12th highest score all time, like all time in fantasy football for the running back position, becomes one of only 5 players in the Super Bowl era to rack up over 200 scrimmage yards and 5 total touchdowns in a single game. Joe Mixon's been really good. You want to know what I think though? He's the ultimate sell high this week.
He's got to be, and I mean, he had me hot and bothered this week. He almost led me to 200 points in our dynasty league. He's looking real good, but yeah, he's kind of been a guy I've been thinking about or trying to sell high for a while. This is the first game we've seen any efficiency from him at all. I think you tweeted it out during the game, Lucas. I mean, he's seen 3.3 yards per carry, and also this week he sees 7. This isn't a very good Carolina team to begin with, and definitely not good against haven't been good against the run in the last 2 games for sure. But yeah, he's got a bye coming up this next week or the week after. I think he's got 1 game, then the bye.
Yep.
Or no, it is his bye is this week.
Yes.
So you lose him this week. If you're going to sell high, you got to do it in the next couple of days because nobody's going to really want to buy a player high off of going into a bye. And then if you give it a week to kind of settle down, people forget how great this performance was. But yeah, I would agree. I think he is a sell high right now. But he is a guy though. It's not just he's a sell. Like you have to sell high on him right now because even if he plays rough, he gets the volume to be a top 12 guy.
Right. I mean, even going into this game, he was still top 12 going into this week. I believe he was the running back 12 going into this week. And that's the thing with Mixon. He just hasn't been efficient enough this year, right? 3.3 yards per carry coming into the game. Had only seen 3 total touchdowns on the season. And that's what sucks about Joe Mixon right now is that he is going into the bye.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to sell on him then. And people are going to forget. And it's going to suck. So if you have anybody who wants a piece of Mixon, if the top guy in your league wants a piece of Mixon and he's willing to give up another one of his studs, I'd be willing to do it because the only people that are going to trade for Joe Mixon are going to be the top people in your league who can afford to burn a bye week, right? Who can afford to take a step back and burn a bye week. So, yeah. I mean, it'll be really tricky. I mean, because the other thing is like I'm only going big game hunting with Joe Mixon. I'm not looking to take a downgrade.
Oh, 100%.
I'm looking to go get an Alvin Kamara. I'm looking to go get a Dalvin Cook. I'm looking to go get a Derrick Henry. But that's the problem, right? Is that like those are those guys' top players as well. So unless they're looking to get a bye week out of the way sooner, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to exactly tell you there. It's going to be tough to manage Joe Mixon, but he is not going to score 55 points again. And with how this offensive line has looked on the season in better matchups, like Joe Mixon is going to come crashing back down to earth. We have a lot of other players to cover, but we needed to do that due diligence because I was not expecting that on Sunday. I was expecting a nice game from Mixon, but not literally history setting day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ken Walker turns out players. Right. Ken Walker turns out he's pretty good at football. 26 rushing attempts, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, added 3 receptions for 20 yards as well. Good for 27.9 fantasy points. Dude's the real deal. He is the real deal. No Rashad Penny. Give that man all the work. I mean, he is like the epitome of like a Pete Carroll running back of what he would probably want. What he wanted from Chris Carson, what he wanted from Rashad Penny, what he wanted from who else was Marshawn, right? This is like Marshawn Lynch 2.0 for Ken Walker, right? That dude is really insanely talented.
Yeah, and I'm gonna loop this up the next guy in there, Travis Etienne. He was
Yes.
right on Ken Walker's tails, 28 carries, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns, another 2 catches for 17 yards. Both of them are getting carries no matter the score.
Right.
Like they are the focal point of their offenses right now, and it doesn't matter. Like Jacksonville was down by so much in this game early. Devontae
Yes.
Adams just dominated them. And Travis Etienne still ends up with 28 carries. Kenneth Walker, 26 carries. Like these are guys you have full confidence in moving forward in both redraft and dynasty.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you hold on to these two with dear life.
Mhm.
Ken Walker, that dude is special, man. And Travis Etienne, he's showing, yeah, give him the volume, he'll go to work. He wasn't super efficient, only 3.9 yards per carry. But yeah, like you said, they were down 14-0 early on the
Yeah.
Raiders, and they just fed Travis Etienne the ball. And guess what? They won the football game still. I
Mhm.
think that says more about how bad the Raiders are than it does
For sure.
the Jags. But still, right? Like it shows commitment to Travis Etienne. They're going to feed him the ball nonstop. Austin Eckler, running back 4 on the week. No surprise there. Not too efficient on the ground, 14 for 47, but did see 7 receptions for 24 yards. Caught a touchdown, a rush for a touchdown as well. Really not the most productive day,
No.
but in PPR, I'm going to take that from Eckler because he still gave you
100%.
20. He gave you 24 fantasy points still.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the quintessential Eckler day,
He averaged less yards on the through the air than he did on the ground.
which is just bad and
It's
uncharacteristic of Austin Eckler.
ridiculous, but
I
he still
figured he
gets you
was for
24 points.
this is about exactly what I was expecting for his receiving line, right? Like somewhere
Yeah.
between 8 to 10 targets and somewhere between 7 to 10 receptions. I didn't expect only 3 yards of reception though. I took
That's
his over on
crazy.
receiving yards in a couple lines. I then switched to once I saw his prop line was at receptions. It was only at 6.5. I took that instead, but I took his yards initially, and I'm like, my goodness, like this. I thought
That's
for sure he'd average
crazy.
at least 7 8 yards reception, but
Yeah,
not the case.
that's nuts.
Derrick Henry, he did not catch the football on Sunday, but he did score 2 touchdowns while rushing for 6.8 yards per carry on 17 rushing attempts for 115 yards. Oh, Derrick Henry, he's also really good at football, and you should not be surprised by this. 23.5 fantasy points in a primetime game against the Chiefs, where I believe they only ran. I'm trying to remember what number I heard this morning. I believe they only ran like 45 plays.
Oh yeah, because Malik Willis only had 15 pass attempts.
Right, and Dontrell Hilliard got in there as well, but I believe it was only 45 plays total.
That's
Meanwhile,
nuts.
Patrick Mahomes is slinging the ball. We'll talk about him later for 68 times. Like what?
That's just crazy. But yeah, the Derrick Henry already is the most scary player for me next year in redraft.
Oh yes. Oh,
What do
I've
you
already
do with this
decided that.
guy? He's not slowing. I mean, he's averaging 7 yards a carry right now, and they know they're giving the ball. And so what do you do next year when he's 29 years old? It's just ridiculous.
I have to imagine that's when they slot Malik Willis in there and they start running more read option and take a little bit of pressure off of Henry. But like but still, I haven't Malik Willis. They haven't let him do much of anything with the
N
football as of
n
recent.
no, Derrick Henry's been getting more carries and been more efficient. It's just I'm so nervous about next year trying to explain to people if you should take do you take him in the first round or do you take him in the third or fourth? Like, I have
I think
no
you still take
idea,
him in the first. I mean, we'll discuss that when the time comes next
but
year. But
it's gonna
like,
be so
uh,
scary. It's
just gonna close my
crazy.
eyes and just
Yes.
hit the draft button and
Oh,
forget about it. Cordero Patterson, he's back. 13 rushing attempts for 44 yards. Not the most efficient day, but he did fall into the end zone twice. Good
mhm.
for 18.3 fantasy points. Jeff Wilson Jr., 9 for 51, added 3 receptions for 21 yards and a touchdown there. That surprised me. I did not expect Jeff Wilson to just
No.
walk in and take over from Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, it was interesting because he was another guy, super efficient. Obviously the touchdown helped him out, but even without the touchdown, he still scored double-digit points. Yeah, that's definitely something to watch. Of is he actually taking over? Was it just the play like the fact that it was the 35-32 game? But we'll talk about him later in the waiver wire pickups because he's definitely a name to watch.
I think he needs to be rostered at this point. He was in my
Yeah.
waiver wire stashes. He was at like 48% rostered
Mhm.
going into the weekend. I was shocked by that.
Yeah.
Um, And I still put him on my stashes because I'm like, if he's in your league, like you got to stash this guy still. If you have Raheem
100%.
Mostert, you need to stash him because we all know what can happen to Raheem Mostert at the drop of a hat. Ramondre Stevenson, 15 for 60, 3 receptions, only 10 yards, but still scored a touchdown through the air. Let me look at something quick. How many weeks has Ramondre Stevenson
Oh,
seen more than 6 targets now? Is that
he
the
is
5th consecutive week?
he is putting up Austin Eckler type receiving numbers right now. It is
He really
crazy.
is.
It's insane. He is, let me see, fifth
So
fifth in receiving targets in the last 5 weeks,
over the
or running back targets.
past, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over the past 7 weeks, 6 of the past 7, he's seen at least 5 targets. He's seen at least 7 each of the past 3 weeks.
It's
I
insane.
mean, Ramondre's getting involved in the passing attack. Mac clearly likes him there. Um, that's something to watch going forward. That is something to watch going forward. I mean, Ramondre's already good as it is, but like, man, he's looking real good this year. I'm really glad I bought into him late in the offseason this year and decided he may have league winning upside. And
Yeah,
tell you what, he's keeping me single handedly in a few of my leagues right now.
for sure.
Michael Carter, 12 for 76 against the Bills, had himself a nice day, a rushing touchdown as well, added a reception for 12 yards, 15.6 fantasy points. And Miles Sanders, 17 and 93 for 5.5 and a touchdown. I mean, Miles Sanders has just been playing good this year. He's running back 15 on the season. I'm fine with him proving us wrong. It's about time he proved us wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, they almost brought in Alvin Kamara though, so that should tell you something about Miles Sanders' future at least. But
Yep.
if they're going to continue using him like this, he's going to continue to be at least mid running back 2 most weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he's 10 to 15 points every week, and
Right.
so he's not gonna pop off for crazy weeks. They use too many other running backs. Jalen Hurts runs the ball too much, but he's consistent enough with, like, how well the team has been running as a whole. I mean, he's more a product of how good the offensive line is than anything.
Well, that's really what it is in the nature of the offense where they have to worry
Yes.
about 25 different people at once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on to wide receiver booms of the week. But before we dive into that, I mean, these are just some juicy notes from the past 5 weeks here. We just want to talk about some more trends as we look forward to the rest of the season. Now that the season is fully established and underway, Cameron, what do you got for us from the past 5 weeks?
Yeah, so, I mean, the first thing is just kinda speaking of how great Tyreek Hill has been. He's got 11 more receptions than any other wide receiver in this, whatever, last 5 weeks. Per game, he's averaging a full reception more than any other, or full reception more than any other receiver. Almost 1.5 targets more than any other receiver. He is on pace for 2,100 yards.
It's absolutely insane.
He's averaging 25.7 yards per game, and he's got 1 touchdown in those 5 games. Him and Justin Jefferson are the only 2 in the top 15 that have 1 touchdown. Everyone's got more than 1 everyone else has more than 1 touchdown in the top 15. Both of them are top 5. So if anything, that should just say Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill rest of the season are just gonna be that much better because they're not gonna do worse in the touchdown,
Right.
target or touchdown category. DeAndre Hopkins has been on fire since he came back. He's top 5 in points per game. So if you held on to DeAndre Hopkins through the first 6 weeks, traded for him, you're feeling really good about that. And then the other one that surprised me the most, McCole Hardman and Juju Smith-Schuster, both top 10 in points per game over the last 5 days. Of course, this starts right after I dropped a sell high on Juju Smith-Schuster. So I'm feeling really good about that. The thing about Hardman that we got to keep in mind is he does have 5 touchdowns in those 4 weeks. So obviously it's going to be a little bit inflated, but you take away those 5 touchdowns, he's still averaging 11 points per game,
Right.
which is, still, if you're picking up McCole Hardman, if you could get 11 points and then maybe up to 18 a week, you're feeling pretty good about that.
Thing about Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore has not chipped into his snaps at all,
Oh my
which is
gosh,
what
Sky
I've
Moore
been
barely
expecting
plays.
I've been expecting that for the past 4 weeks of like, when are we going to see Sky Moore? When is
Mhm.
Sky Moore going to get on the football field? Justin Watson has still been getting out there. Sky Moore has not seen an uptick in snaps. Mecole Hardman is still playing right around 50% of the snaps each game, and he's getting the volume. He's taking
Yep.
advantage of those snaps. It's absolutely crazy, the tear that Mecole Hardman is on. But Juju Smith-Schuster, like, you and I were kind of talking about it before the year started. Like, there is some league winning upside there.
Yes.
Um, But if we, yeah, I mean, and now that this Chiefs offense has found its groove, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is not going to throw 68 times every single week, but I mean, you have to take note. Juju's been double digits for 4 straight weeks now. Mecole Hardman has been double digits for 4 straight weeks, if not five.
Yeah.
Um, these are just things you have to take note of. The trends that we're noticing. You do what you want with it. If you
Mhm.
believe in the Chiefs, hold on to them. If you're like, I want to get rid of Mecole, do it.
Yep.
I don't know what you're going to really get trade Mecole Hardman for, but just things to keep in mind as we're halfway through the season at this point.
Yeah, the thing I really like about Juju moving forward is he is averaging 6.5 receptions, a little over 8 targets, about 75 receiving yards a game. So I mean, he's got a real consistent floor, at least over the last 5 weeks.
Right. He absolutely does. Number one wide receiver on the week, Devontae Adams. 17 targets, 10 receptions, 146 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You think he had something to say to the coaching staff
No
after
kidding.
last week?
Quarter one, he was 6 catches, 6 targets, 88 yards, and a touchdown.
First drive, was he
Yeah,
not?
I
20
was a
points
set.
on the first drive.
Might have been just the first drive, but yeah, it was not. I mean, came out and just throwing to him like they should have the whole time.
And they still lost,
Yes,
which is
they're
just
a bad team.
embarrassing.
They're a bad team.
Which is just embarrassing. I mean, Devontae Adams is good. This is what you should be expecting from him. Maybe not 17 targets, but like in the top 8 every single week is what you should be
Yes.
expecting. If the Raiders are smart, they're going to continue to feed him going forward because
Oh my
Josh
god.
Jacobs isn't going to single-handedly carry you to victories.
No.
That's not going to happen.
No.
Tyreek Hill, man, 7 receptions, 8 targets, 143 yards, found the end zone this week. Good for 27.3 fantasy points. I mean, he's just like, again, I think I said this on last week's. I'm fine admitting I'm wrong. Okay. Like I am fine admitting, like, man, we should have really invested in Tyreek Hill. I didn't like we're talking what 143 divided by 7. How many yards per reception are we looking at there? We're looking
Oh,
at we're looking at 20 yards a reception,
yeah.
right? Like these are the things that just like did Debo last year, right? He's averaging like 18 yards of reception. I'm like,
Yeah.
that is insane. That is not sustainable for a full year. Whatever Mike McDaniel is doing, man, just get these guys into space. I saw this stat on Twitter the other day too, I believe. Actually, it was just today. Yards of separation. Both Tyreek and Jalen Waddle are seeing at least 3 yards of separation on the routes.
That's insane.
Uh, If you're a defense, how can you allow that?
Yeah.
Like, you know what Mike McDaniel wants to do is just give them the ball in space. 3 yards is more than enough because once the ball's in their hands, bye. You're not catching it. You're not catching
No,
them with 3 yards of separation.
either of them.
It just blows my mind.
Yeah, we really I mean, what it comes down to for Tyreek Hill and Waddle is we really underestimated Tua and just how good McDaniel was gonna be calling plays for him.
Right, right. And it was one of those where Debo was still fine without his rushing work last year, but you also had to
Yeah.
recognize like just the volume wasn't there, and without the rushing work at the tail end of the year, Debo would probably be closer to that 10 range versus
Yeah.
the top 3 range. Uh, and both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are just sustaining top 7 numbers on the year.
Yeah.
It is just
It's
absolutely
insane.
incredible. It's incredible. Cooper Cup back where he belongs, 8 receptions on 9 targets for 127 yards and a touchdown. Uh, Can we move on? I mean, this is what you
Yeah.
expect every week. He's gonna Matthew Stafford's gonna force feed him.
If you're surprised by this, you've been living under a rock, so
Yeah, that's very true. Same thing with Justin Jefferson. 7 receptions on 13 targets for 115 and a touchdown. Yeah, Justin Jefferson. That man is really good at football. I Yep. I'm gonna move on there as well. We don't
Yep.
need to spend much time on him. Christian Kirk is back. 8 receptions on 9 targets for 76 yards and a touchdown. Uh Look, this is the bounce back game we needed from Christian Kirk.
Yes.
How are you valuing him going forward? Because he put up single digits the
Mhm.
prior 3 weeks to this week. Is
Yeah.
this instill any confidence in you going forward? How are you feeling?
Yeah, he's a guy who definitely has a negative trend over the last 5 weeks. We'll talk about him a little more later too, but it does have to instill a little more confidence. I treat him as probably a low end RB or wide receiver 2 moving forward. Um, just because we know what he can put up. So, in the range of like I still put him in like a Terry McLaurin range. I
Yeah,
think is where I got him right now, and that's kind of where I'd keep him at because I think Trevor Lawrence is good enough, and with ETN the way he's running the ball, that's going to open up even more
yeah,
to kind of sustain that wide receiver 2 range where you could get an 8-point week, but then you could also get this 20-point week. So
yeah. Yeah, Christian Kirk will always get the volume. He's always going to see the 7 targets every single game. Like
Mhm.
that's what you should be expecting. And once he falls into the end zone, it's all icing on the cake, right?
Yep.
We just talked about Mecole Hardman, 6 receptions on 9 targets for 79 yards and a touchdown. He's just been so good, and his snaps are not going down. Sky Moore cannot chip into those. Justin Watson cannot chip into those. Like Mecole Hardman is
Mhm.
going to continue being on the football field for the Chiefs if
Yeah,
he keeps putting up numbers like this.
for sure.
What do you do with him going forward, though? Are you like obviously you're trying to sell him, but also like what can you realistically get for him?
Yeah, I really don't know how much you're gonna get for him, especially if you're in, like, your home league. Nobody's paying attention to the name Mecole Hardman, right? He
No.
hasn't put up a good enough week where everyone's like, "Ooh, Mecole Hardman." So, honestly, I'm probably just gonna hold on to him. Maybe you could, like, throw him in, you could do a Mixon and Mecole Hardman for a Kamara or something like that. If somebody's, like, enamored by Mixon, you can kinda just put him in on top and say, "Hey, this guy's been top 10 or is a top 10 wide receiver over the last 5 weeks,"
Right.
something like that. But, yeah, that would probably be the way you could sell Mecole Hardman.
Yeah, that has to be it because you're not going to get standalone value from Mecole
No.
Hardman. He has to be a sweetener in a package. Um, yeah, he has to be a sweetener in any kind of trade package, really. Jalen Waddle, we talked about him. 5 receptions, 7 targets, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Just totally underestimated him this year. Um, I look and I love Jalen Waddle. Like I do. I've been on this podcast before expressing my love for Jalen Waddle. And I will continue to love that man. He is still on my jersey list. I, that Dolphins team is just so incredibly good. I cannot believe it. Juju Smith-Schuster. We talked about him. Talked about a lot of these guys already. 10 receptions on 12 targets, 88 yards. Good for 18.8 fantasy points on the day. Alan Lazard. Only 4 receptions on 10 targets, but 87 yards, fell into the end zone. I mean, his stock only goes up from here. No
It
Romeo
has
Doubs for the
to.
next 4 to 6 weeks. His stock goes up. Are you like you can't really trade for Lazard because he nearly just put up 20 points, but like, are you looking to sell Lazard? Or are you
I
because
would
it's not this has been a rocky road for all Packers players this year.
Lazard's been the most consistent by far. He's been averaging, close to 14 points over the last 6 weeks. So, if you got him as your wide receiver 2 or even you probably have him as your wide receiver 3,
Right.
I'm probably holding on to him unless, you got somebody who's really buying into it. Also, I just wanna throw this out because I just got a
Yep.
text,
Yeah,
someone
yeah. I just got that too.
trying to chirp me in our league because he's my only quarterback. Josh Allen, they're looking at a potential UCL injury. If
Ooh.
I'm not mistaken, that's what, Stafford had. It is what Stafford had?
I am not
Or
entirely
was it a
sure,
little
but I can
different?
look.
Um, so it is, the ligament and related nerves is what he's being evaluated for. So that did just come out. Um, so obviously still something to monitor, something to watch. We'll know more probably by Wednesday.
Yes, Matthew Stafford did have a problem with yeah, his ligament as well, the UCL. Um,
He did play
yes,
through
yep.
it.
He did
So
play through it. He
and he won a
did.
Super Bowl. So
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So I mean, there's still that going for him, but yeah, that is
yeah,
something to keep an eye on because
for sure.
Stafford has not looked this like
No,
the same
not this year
quarterback
at
this year.
all. Yeah.
Back to wide receivers, though, last one, and
Yep.
we'll
Sorry
move
about
on
that.
to then court. No, 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 that's good. That's good. We
Yeah.
talked about that because it needed to be brought up. Josh Palmer, 8 receptions on 10 targets, 106 yards, good for 18.6 fantasy points. Whoever that wide receiver one in Los Angeles is going to be, they're going to put up fantasy points.
Yeah.
We were clamoring for you all to pick up Josh Palmer over the past really 3 weeks.
Yes.
This is exactly why.
Mhm.
We didn't predict Keenan Allen being out, but that, like, with how banged up this Chargers team was, it'd be silly to not have their wide
Yep.
receiver one and DeAndre Carter, who didn't put up a too bad of a day himself,
Yes.
not to have them rostered. Let's move on to quarterback booms. We got quite a bit to cover here in the last 20, 25 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Trends from over the past 5 weeks, Cameron, that we've been seeing at the position.
Yeah, I'll fly through these real quick. Mahomes and Burrow both averaging over 350 passing yards a game. Mahomes averaging 375 passing yards a game. Just crazy numbers from those guys. Justin Fields, QB1 over this time and QB3 in points per game.
Just
Uh,
nuts. We'll talk about
just
him.
Absolutely crazy. Jalen Hurts, Tua, Tom Brady, and Daniel Jones are the only QBs without an INT over the last 5 weeks. Just I just saw that stat, and that's just crazy to me. The 3 of these guys, you wouldn't have believed that stat last year, so,
Right.
pretty incredible. And then Kirk Cousins, Captain Kirk, 7th in points per game over the last 5 weeks. He should be
Super
a
reliable.
starter. He should
Super
be a starter.
reliable.
Yeah,
18 plus
100%.
almost every week this year. He's
Yeah.
super reliable. Super reliable. There's a reason he's been our start of the week each of the past 3 weeks, either
Yeah.
Tyler or I. Let's start with this man, Justin Fields, though, because he too made history yesterday. 17 completions on 28 attempts, only 123 yards, but good for 3 passing touchdowns. Oh, but he also ran the ball 15 times for 178 yards, breaking the single game rushing record by a quarterback originally set by Michael Vick with 173 yards, also scored on the ground there. Good for 42.7 fantasy points. He was my start of the week. If you're not listening to the Stardom Saturday episode, you should be, because Tyler and I have been dropping absolute gorgeous information over there. And if you would have listened, would have given you the quarterback one on the week. I'm sad I just traded Justin Fields away, but I acquired a DeAndre Swift in the deal, and it was 100% worth it. At any rate, one of the biggest, I know we've done overreaction Monday earlier throughout the year, but there just hasn't been enough over the past few weeks. But I did see this today, and I sent it to both you and Tyler. Justin Fields over Jalen Hurts the rest of the season was the take.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple people saying Justin Fields is a difference maker, gonna be a special talent in the NFL. Are we really gonna overreact to 1 week where he went 17 to 28 passing for 123 yards? I understand rushing was, the biggest difference maker in the world, but he's still not a special passer,
No,
And
no,
so and like the fantasy take, Jalen Hurts is better all around except for maybe yardage wise rushing than Justin Fields.
right. I think
It's
Justin
just
Fields can improve on his passing. I think he
100%.
can. But let's not jump to this conclusion.
No.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves saying Justin Fields is an elite generational game changing, league changing talent. Like let's not quite jump there yet. So because Tyler isn't on the episode and I feel personally safe that we can do this, let's play a name game. Let's
Yes.
play a name game.
Yes.
You like name games. Tyler
I
does not
do.
like name games.
I know. He's ridiculous.
We're looking at Justin Fields' rest of season. In lieu of the tweet that we both saw today from respected analysts in the industry. I don't want to name names or feel like we're coming at said analyst, but that just took me aback. I couldn't believe it.
Yes.
So let's start. Justin Fields or Jalen Hurts rest of the season. Who are you taking?
Hurts. Hurts. I'm not even thinking twice.
I'm taking Hurts as well, and I am not thinking twice about it. Justin Fields or Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
I'm taking Josh Allen. We do not need to discuss that any further. I'm going to pull up projections. We're just going to go down the list, or not projections, like on the season stats. We're just going to go down the list of top quarterbacks on the season. Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes.
Yes, Patrick Mahomes, I would take as well over Justin Fields rest of the season. Joe Burrow
Joe
or
Burrow.
Justin Fields. I will take Joe Burrow as well. That one, I think, admittedly, is closer than I want to think. But
Yes.
Joe Burrow was currently the
Yes.
quarterback 3 on the season, and that's why I'm not going to overlook that one.
No.
Lamar Jackson, the quarterback 5 on the season, or Justin Fields.
Lamar Jackson is Justin Fields just better. So
It's just
Jackson.
better Justin Fields, right?
Yes.
That's exactly it. I'm taking Lamar Jackson. Here's where we start having conversations. Kyler Murray or Justin Fields rest of the season.
I'm going to still lean Kyler. Kyler for sure is one of those guys. If you can trade Kyler for Justin Fields plus, then we start having a real conversation.
Yes, I would 100% trade Kyler for Justin Fields plus.
And I think a couple of those other quarterbacks we talked about, I would as well.
Yes.
But Kyler for sure is where I really, really would consider that.
So here's what's crazy. Now we start getting to Geno Smith or Justin Fields rest of season.
And that's where I'd take Fields.
Because here's the deal. We just went through the top 6 quarterbacks. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray are all top 6. Justin Fields is number 7 on the season. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. You're going Justin Fields.
Yes.
Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields. You're going Justin Fields.
I'm gonna go Justin Fields. Yeah,
I would as well. Marcus Mariota, Justin Fields. You're going Justin
Justin
Fields.
Fields.
Tua Tagovailoa at 12 or Justin Fields.
This is the one I think is really tough for me. I probably am still gonna lean Fields because the rushing is just insane, but Tua is just as capable of popping off with these great weapons.
I mean, we've seen it, right? We've seen him
Yes.
put up back-to-back great performances. I'm going to lean Fields as well, and it is the rushing upside that
Yes.
keeps me with Fields. Here we go. Justin Herbert or Justin Fields rest of the season. Justin Herbert has not been good this year.
No, and this is what scares me. I'll spoil it. When we get to the bus, he's quarterback 21 over the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, I
And
would
if
trade Justin Herbert
I
for
would
Justin Fields plus.
plus
I would do that.
100% right now. And it's not a knock on Justin Herbert. It's the fact that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen have not stayed healthy, and you don't know how good they're going to be rest of the season, health wise. And I think you could get a pretty big plus with Justin Fields when you trade Herbert. Herbert's got that name, and he's going to have it rest of the season.
Absolutely. Tom Brady, Justin Fields rest of season.
Fields. I think anyone else is Fields for me.
Everyone else is Fields for me as well. And I don't even want to throw out any other names because yes, everybody else is going to be Justin Fields. So right now he is number 7, and really, like that's where we have him, right? It's Kyler, it's Lamar, it's Jalen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Otherwise, we're trading we're trading those people for Justin Fields plus.
It's been a long enough stretch that you have to start buying into the legitimacy of him as a fantasy quarterback.
I mean, we're talking at least 7 rushing attempts in every single game this year. We're talking 8+ in every game but one, double digits in 5 games on the season. 4 games on the season, excuse me. Yes, 4 games on the season. I mean, the rushing ability of Justin Fields is a cheat code. It's a cheat code. So yeah, you absolutely can consider trading some of your stud guys. Oh, Dak Prescott or Justin Fields rest of season. That's other name.
That's another good one, but I do think I'm going to lean Fields slightly.
I just chose Dak over Fields, so I feel obligated to say Dak, but like that's my true breaking point there.
It's a 50-50 for me at that point, right?
Yeah,
because the thing is, Fields definitely has a higher ceiling, but Dak is going to be way more consistent rest of the season, I feel like.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Justin Fields is the sexy shot in the dark.
Yes.
He could pay absolute dividends, or he could come crashing back down to earth soon because he's still not the most talented passing quarterback out there, even though it might not matter.
Yeah.
All right, let's cruise through the rest of these quarterback booms because we still have tight end booms and a whole lot of busts to get through. Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, threw the ball 68 times. When you throw the ball 68 times, you should probably finish. I think he was kind of robbed of a quarterback one finish on the week. Let's be honest,
100%.
because Justin Fields went nuts. But Patrick Mahomes, when you throw the ball 68 times, you should be the quarterback 2 on the week for 446 yards. Only 1 passing touchdown.
That's crazy. That is insane.
Did fall into the end zone as well. 6 for 63 and a touchdown there. He's really good at football, and so is Josh Allen, who, despite really not his best NFL game, as once again, he described it's tough to win when your quarterback plays like doo-doo in the toilet. 18 of 34, 205, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but did fall into the end zone twice on the ground, 9 rushing attempts for 86 yards, 26.8 fantasy points. Again, keep an eye on that UCL in the coming weeks, but you're probably going to start him most weeks because this is what he can do even when playing like absolute crap.
Yep.
Tua Tagovailoa, 21 of 30, 302 yards, 3 touchdowns, 24.1 fantasy points. This is exactly what we're talking about. Like Tua is like an every week starter at this point, I fear.
Yeah. 15 yards of reception.
Which is just nuts.
Insane.
Geno Smith, 26 of 34 for 275 and 6 rushing attempts for 38 yards, 21.8 fantasy points. Geno is just balling out, man. Seattle's just making us look stupid and more stupid and stupid by the week.
He's just unbelievably consistent. It's ridiculous.
I'm still having trouble believing it. Like, I just don't know where this Geno... maybe this is just what happens when you have such a successful running attack with Ken Walker that Geno can just be unleashed. Like, is that what...
I guess so.
So
that's what it looks like.
Maybe Pete Carroll's formula has been right all along, and we've just looked stupid for doubting Pete Carroll. Jalen Hurts, still a top 6 quarterback on the week, despite, it really wasn't even that great of a week. 21 of 27 for 243 and 2. Nine rushing attempts for 23 yards. Really wasn't great there.
No, he didn't have to do much though. That's the thing. He played the
Right.
Texans.
Right. That is also true. When you play the Texans, you'll probably stumble your way into a top 10 finish.
Yes.
Joe Burrow, 22 of 28 for 206 and a touchdown. Rushed for a touchdown as well, 19.1 fantasy points. Kyler Murray, 25 of 35 for 175, 2 touchdowns. He did find the end zone. No, he didn't find the end zone on the ground, but he did add 8
Fumbled.
rushing attempts for 60 yards. That was a fumble he added. Still had 19 fantasy points. Then we wrap out Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins at the top 10. Carr, 21 of 36, 2 touchdowns. Kirk Cousins, 22 of 40, 265, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That wraps out our quarterback booms of the week. Let's move on to the tight ends. Not a whole lot you can really say about those final guys.
No.
Not too much digging we need to do into them. Tight end trends over the past 4 weeks, or 5 weeks, excuse me, Cameron. What have we got?
Kelsey's the only dominant guy right now. He's averaging
Yes.
8 more points per game than everybody else over that week. Taysom Hill's still been a top 5 wide receiver over the last 5 weeks.
Tight end. Yes.
Yeah,
Wow.
tight end.
That's crazy.
He's only had 3 targets.
So he's riding. He's really riding that 30-point day.
Yes. Yep. And the difference between tight end 2 and tight end 10 is 4.7 points. That's the same difference between tight end 10 and tight end 34.
Well, that's
so
crazy.
It's pretty much just mediocre tight ends after the top, for sure 10, but after the top 5, it's really just everyone's 10 between 5 and 10 points a week,
which is just crazy, right? Because you draft guys like Kittle and Waller and Pitts in the 3rd and 4th round thinking I got a positional advantage, and you don't. It turns out you don't. You don't have a positional advantage. Dallas Goedert, he's turned out to be a really nice player this year. I wish I would have kept my chips in on him because I was really in on him before they traded for AJ Brown.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I guess when you apparently addition to a player's value is just by adding more talented players around them. I
guess so.
I can't believe it. 8 receptions on 9 targets for 100 yards. Granted, Devonta Smith is suffering from this a little bit. Let's not get it twisted.
Yes, he is.
Devonta Smith has been suffering, but 8 receptions on 9 targets for 100 yards and a touchdown, 24 fantasy points on the week. Yeah, he I think might be the best tight end value this year.
Yeah, he's averaging 6 receptions and 8 targets over the last 5 weeks.
Extremely talented. I had said, if you could go out and trade Pitts for Goddard when Pitts was
easily
just kicking the can, I hope you did that. You're not going to be able to now.
No.
Cole Kmet. Hey, Cole, good to see you, buddy.
Good
to see you, man. 5 receptions on 6 targets for 41 yards and 2 touchdowns, 22 fantasy points. If anybody in your league is a sucker for Cole Kmet and is absolutely desperate at tight end, go trade Cole Kmet while you still can because he is not going to have much value going forward.
Nope.
Travis Kelce, just where you expect him to be, 10 of 17, 106, no touchdowns, though, which is just crazy. You got 17 targets and you can't score, Travis Kelce?
That's ridiculous.
I can't believe that. He's due for a touchdown here in the coming weeks. He has to be.
Yep.
I thought it'd be this week, and he got the target volume to do it, yet couldn't find the end zone. Cade Otton, 5 of 6 for 68 and a touchdown. When Cameron Brate does not play, Cade Otton needs to be in your lineup. I believe he's been a top 10 tight end each of the weeks that Cameron Brate has been out.
Yeah.
TJ Hawkinson. Kevin O'Connell said he was going to be involved, and he absolutely was. 9 receptions, 9 targets, 70 yards, 16 fantasy points on the week. You love to see it. Us as Minnesota Vikings fan, this just warmed my heart.
Oh, it made me so happy.
I wish Ty was here to show his receipt because immediately after the game, I was with him. We were joking about it. He went out and bought himself a TJ Hawkinson jersey after that game. Instantly.
He bought a real TJ Hawkinson. No, shipping it from across overseas or anything. That's a legit.
That's an emotional investment.
Yeah, it is. Ooh.
I applaud him. I should have asked him to buy me one since it was that impulsive.
No kidding. Just tick it up to 2.
Zach Ertz. 5 receptions on 8 targets for 40 yards and a touchdown. This is the story of Zach Ertz this year. Watch me get 7+ targets. Watch me only catch the ball 3 to 5 times a game. Watch me only rack up 35 to 50 receiving yards. Oh, but it's okay because I'm going to find the end zone. Zach Ertz, it is the ugliest duckling of stat lines this year. Yeah. But he keeps scoring touchdowns, so it doesn't matter. He does. Noah Fant, 5 of 6 for 96, good for 14.6 fantasy points. He's been decent recently.
He has. He's starting to get back to maybe you could stream him here or there because he was non-existent to start the season.
Correct. Yeah, I'm not excited to do that, but
No.
something to keep in mind.
Yep.
Oh man, Josiah Duguara. Oh brother. 5 of 5 for 41.
Stay away.
Stay away. I mean, we're talking less than 10 fantasy points. Hunter Henry, James Mitchell.
I know.
Like these are all guys who had less than 10 fantasy points. This is how bad the tight end position is.
Top 10 on the week, and they have less than 10 fantasy points.
Oh, it's just absolutely ugly. Don't chase those guys. Don't chase
No.
those points, those finishes. Don't chase
No.
them. All right, those were our booms of the week, Cameron. We literally have 10 minutes to get through
I can do it.
bust of the week and some rapid fire waiver wire. Let's do it though. Running back bust of the week. What do you got over the past 5 weeks for us?
Connor, JT, Monty, and Najee all outside top 20 running backs. Kareem Hunt and Melvin Gordon outside top 40 running backs. And CEH, our guy, and AJ Dillon outside the top 50 running backs. I just had to add that one for fun. That's all in terms of points per game. But those guys have been really disappointing. Obviously, Connor, JT been battling injury, but still to be outside 20, you're we were hoping for a lot more and just haven't seen it.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly. And let's start with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 2.9 fantasy points on the week. The running back 41, 4 rushing attempts, 5 yards, 1 or 2 receptions for 13 yards. If you said Clyde Edwards-Helaire was going to be good,
third best running
you're
back on
wrong.
Steam.
You're wrong. Okay, I was right. We
Yes.
were right. Yeah.
Pat on the back.
I'm not even gonna victory lap that. That's how
No.
dumb that take was from the get go.
Yes.
Oh, but they designed plays for him in the red zone. Not when Patrick Mahomes is giving him magic shovel passes.
Exactly.
Oh, I hope you sold high because he's not even the starter on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Deonta Foreman, oh brother, 4.1 fantasy points, running back 38 on the week, only 7 rushing attempts. I mean, they were just getting absolutely smoked this whole game. Yeah, no other choice.
It makes sense, but it's still really disappointing.
Really disappointing. David Montgomery, 5.4 fantasy points, and running back 35 on the week, 14 attempts for 36 yards. This backfield is just ugly. 14 for 36, man. That's just abysmal.
He has to have the worst efficiency on the season. Like he has been under 3 yards a carry like every week except 2.
I mean, he's under 3 yards per carry here.
Yeah.
14 to 36. That's like 2.5. That's less than 2.5.
Yeah. 3.7 yards per carry on the season.
It's just abysmal for David Montgomery.
Yeah.
And Khalil Herbert's there just gobbling up touches as well.
Yep.
Honorable mentions here. Look, AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones, man, they just this was the perfect game for them to cement.
Yes.
Like this was
we
the
were
perfect
so
game for
excited about them.
And it was one of those games.
Suck.
I told Ty, I believe it was on the Stardom Saturday episode. I said this is going to be the game where the Packers just decide Aaron Rodgers needs to throw the football for whatever reason on the 1 yard line in the red zone. 2 interceptions in the red zone for Aaron Rodgers. Run the football. Like I'm delighting in this as a Minnesota Vikings fan. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. I'm delighting in that. But like from a football perspective, that drives me nuts.
Yeah, I don't know what their thought process. I mean, LaFleur is going to lose his job pretty soon if he keeps.
Oh, he's going to. He has to.
Abysmal.
I don't know what you do when you sign literally largest quarterback contract to ever exist, Aaron Rodgers. He's about to walk out mid-season.
Yeah.
And you can't even fix this off? Like, what? The only thing you lost was Devontae Adams. Is it like, I mean, the offensive line has been playing like trash too. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many things wrong with Green Bay. Antonio Gibson was running back 26 on the week, which is just sad. 6.7 fantasy points, and he was nearly a running back 2 on the week.
Yeah, he was. The reason I put him on there is he's just a guy that disappointed us. I mean,
we were disappointed us. Yeah,
hyping up the receiving work because he should have. I mean, the guy's been averaging like six targets a game over the last 3 games before last week. No J.D. McKissick and gets 1 target or 1 reception. And it's just like, or 2 receptions, I think he got, but still, it's just ridiculous. Like
2
he
for
just
12.
went away from it. It was disappointing.
It was just a weird game because it's not like Washington was chasing points, but also, again, you just expected more from Antonio Gibson this week. Wide receiver bust on the week. What have we seen over the past 5 weeks, Cameron?
So CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, and Michael Pittman all been surprisingly disappointing outside the top 25 in points per game. Obviously, Debo battling injury, but also Godwin, Christian Kirk, DK Metcalf, and Devonta Smith all outside the top 30.
Godwin's been seeing a ton of targets too.
I know. Yeah, and DK Metcalf has felt pretty decent as well.
Right.
But still outside top 30. Thielen, Curtis Samuel, and Amon-Ra outside the top 40. Obviously, Amon-Ra's been battling injury as well, but he's wide receiver 62 in points per game.
Oh, yeah.
Cortland Sutton and Drake London outside the top 80 wide receivers.
It's abysmal.
And then just for fun, Elijah Moore outside the top 150 wide receivers.
Just for fun. Just for fun. Two quick thoughts. Godwin has seen double-digit targets, I believe, in 4 of his
Yeah,
past 5 games since his return, which is just nuts.
which is why I couldn't believe how far down he's been.
I mean, he hasn't scored more than, like, 13 fantasy points
Yeah,
during
it's
that
just
stretch, though, which is
ridiculous.
just kinda crazy.
Yeah.
Courtland Sutton, are you buying low on him right now?
Yeah, I really want to, but it's scary. I would try to buy low, but it is scary right now.
I think you can get him at such a scary low price that I'm willing
Yes.
to do it.
Yes.
If I'm at the top of my league and I can trade away probably my wide receiver 4 to get Courtland Sutton, like, if you built
Oh
up
yeah.
that deep of a team, I would do it.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel for Cortland Sutton.
Goose egg from Robert Woods. 0 receptions on 2 targets against the Chiefs. Malik Willis was throwing him the football.
Malik Willis effect.
Drake London, wide receiver 60 on the week with 7 fantasy points, 3 receptions on 7 targets for 23 yards. Marcus Mariota effect.
Yep.
Devonta Smith, only 2 targets for 22 yards, 4.2 points on the week. Something about that Drake London stat line is off because it is off. It should be 4.3 points. It still says 7.1. That's okay. We didn't change that afterwards.
Oh,
I
that's
just
my
read it
bad.
off the doc. You're good. Devonta Smith, though, yikes. I'm looking to buy low on Devonta Smith while I can.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been disappointing just because they've played so well in the passing game the last couple of weeks. But you gotta think it's gonna start coming his way. He's too talented for it not to.
Right. And when you play the Texans, not every wide receiver is going to be relevant. Like AJ Brown
No.
only had 57 receiving yards, I believe,
Yeah.
in that game.
He just
Like,
ended up with the touchdown.
right, exactly. DJ Moore, 6 targets, 2 receptions, 24 yards. I mean, they just could not do anything against the Bengals. And when
No.
all the Bengals did was run and take time off the clock, you're not going to have much time of possession.
Nope.
Michael Pittman, garbage. 3 of
They need
6
Matt
for
Ryan
22
back.
yards. I don't know what this team thought of benching Matt Ryan. I get he hasn't been good,
Yeah.
but it's not like Sam Ellinger is going to take you any further.
No. And he hasn't shown you anything yet, so you might as well just try to put people in the seats to keep Matt Ryan and make it interesting.
Which is about what's happening right now. Honorable mentions: Gabe Davis, the wide receiver, 42, 5.3 fantasy points. He's just not producing at a level that managers need him to be right now.
Nope.
Mike Evans, 9 fantasy points, the wide receiver, 33 on the week. Adam Thielen, 9.7, the wide receiver, 29, and Amon-Ra, the wide receiver, 30 with 9.5. Seemed like a decent game for Amon-Ra to try and break out too. They just could not make, like, that Lions Packers game was just. I'm
Yeah,
glad
it
I was
was
watching the Vikings game because
an
that
ugly
would not
game.
have been any more fun to watch.
No.
Quarterback bust of the week over the last 4 weeks. Cameron, what have we been tracking?
Justin Herbert, I mentioned this earlier, outside the top 20 quarterbacks averaging 14 fantasy points. Brady and Rodgers are quarterbacks 17 and 18. Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, all averaging below 14 fantasy points a game, which means they're also outside the top 20. And Jared Goff, he was the guy that we were kind of talking about, a sneaky streamer beginning of the year. Quarterback 30, averaging 10 fantasy points a game over this stretch.
Yeah, I made him my streaming option after I traded away Justin Fields.
Mm.
I'm still going to win this week. I'll let you know that. But like, man, after
Disappointing.
I mean, that's what I got back in my deal because I knew because I have Dak as my starting quarterback, and
Yep.
I knew I needed to stream. And Justin Fields, I was super excited to, but I needed to make him part of the deal to get the deal to go through. I'm like, well, I want Jared Goff in return then because I actually like him as a streaming option this week. And based on who else was on the waiver wire, I just wanted Goff. Yeah, he didn't do me too well this week.
No.
Justin Herbert, quarterback 17 on the week, 13.1 fantasy points. He still threw the ball 43 times. Yikes.
Yeah.
1 touchdown, 1 interception. That's not a good day. Quarterback 12 on the season in points per game. He's going 7 for 7. He was going for 7.5 yards per attempt last season. He's only at 6.4 yards per attempt this season.
Just not moving the ball down the field at all.
It's tough when you don't have Mike Will or Keenan Allen out on the field. Like that,
100%.
that is an effect of this.
Yeah.
But it has just been bad for Herbert. Matt Stafford continues to be bad. 13 of 27. Can't even complete 50% of his passes for 165 and a touchdown. You take out the massive Cooper Kupp touchdown, not to say, look at how bad he was, or you take away something good, but like just being realistic here. He was 12 of 26 for 98 yards.
It's just gross.
You can cut him. You should have cut him a long time ago.
Yeah, he should have been. I
I
can
mean,
I can talk about our honorable mention too.
yeah, go for it. Yep.
The reason I put in Malik Willis here. He only had 7.2 points, third worst quarterback, 5 of 16, 80 yards, 3 attempts for 8 yards rushing. Reason I put him on, people were saying whenever he starts, he's got such a great rushing floor. He's gonna be just fine. No, Malik Willis is not a good quarterback. He is not pro ready. There's a reason he slid as far as he did in the NFL draft. Um, like Justin Fields went 10th for a reason. Team really believed in him. Willis fell to the third round because 32 teams passed on him almost 3 times. So,
Yeah, almost
you
3 times.
you just gotta remember that, like, just because a guy can run doesn't mean he's gonna be, fantasy relevant.
Right. That's exactly it. And especially when you have Derrick Henry in that same backfield. They
Yes.
would much rather run with him than they would rookie
Ye
quarterback Malik Willis, who's been a spot start, not a full-time starter. It's been because
yes.
Ryan Tannehill is out. Let's get that very clear. Malik Willis
Yes.
has not won this job.
No.
Tight end bust of the week over the past 4 weeks, Cameron. What have we been taking down?
Schultz and Gerald Everett, 2 guys, Schultz kind of feeling like might be better with Dak back. Everett having some chances, both outside the top 20 in points per game. Dawson Knox, another guy, I think he's tight end 14. Again, just touchdown dependent, barely seeing 3 targets a game,
Which is
seeing
disgusting.
3.2 or 3.3 targets a game, and there are only 10 tight ends averaging double digits, and 2 of them are averaging exactly 10 points.
What I want to know is how many of them were actually drafted
Yeah, it
to be
was
starting tight ends.
oh, I can look at it quick. It was low too. Um, let me go super fast. 5 week 5 to 9. I should have just kept it up. All right.
No, you're good.
So we got in the top 10, we got Kelsey, Kittle, Goddard. Taysom Hill was not drafted. Mark Andrews. Njoku wasn't drafted.
No, not to
Maybe
be a
at the
starter at
end.
least.
Nope. Dolchich, not drafted. Ertz, Engram, not drafted. Hurst, not drafted.
So really half of those guys you didn't even draft to be
Yeah.
starters,
Yeah.
which is just
5 of them you
crazy.
drafted. Yep. Nuts.
Kyle Pitts
Back where he is. Oh.
back to absolutely stinking.
Mhm.
What a disgrace. 2 of 7 for 27 yards. He's still bad. He's going to have one good game every once in a while. He's
Yeah.
going to.
Marcus
He's going
Mariota
to.
effect.
But as soon as he does, get him off your squad.
Mhm.
Evan Ingram, this was just disappointing because he was playing Vegas and he was been super involved, but only got 2
Mhm.
targets, 1 reception for 8 yards. Just a pitiful week. Still won the game, but you expected Ingram to be involved a little bit more this week.
Yep.
Tyler Conklin, only 1.7 fantasy points after seeing a ton of volume, but I think that's what the Buffalo Bills will do to you. Mike Gesicki, tight end 43 on the week, 1.3 fantasy points. Both guys who looked like they were bouncing back, but maybe are not anymore.
No.
All right, that wraps out our boom and bust players of week 9. Granted, we still have a Monday Night Football game, but you all will already have witnessed that tomorrow. And since that game will be over by the time you listen to this podcast, let's do some rapid fire waiver wire here. We're running overtime, but it's going to be rapid fire waiver wire. Waivers do run tonight. We want to make sure you are prioritizing the right players this week. So we're going to rapid fire list our top waiver wire ads of the week to close out the episode. Cameron, I'm going to let you start.
I'll just do 2 real quick because McCole Hardman talked about it enough. We've explained
Yes.
why to add him. Next guy, Jeff Wilson. We talked about him a little bit too. 9 of 51 on the ground, 3 of 3 for 21 yards and a touchdown through the air. Very involved in his first week in Miami. Yeah, at least someone has to have him on their roster just in case he does win the starting job moving forward.
Absolutely. Yes. Those two, you need to be rostering those two moving forward. Absolutely. My first one, he was on bye this week, but Donovan Peoples-Jones, double-digit fantasy points each of the past 3 weeks. He has seen 6+ targets in 4 games this year. He has gone over 70 receiving yards in 4 games this year. He's gone over 50 receiving yards in 6 games this year. He's only wide receiver 52 on the season, despite getting off to a slow start. But again, you mix in a bye week in there. Look, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones in PPR formats, like you have to be keeping tabs on him. I think he should be on your roster. Nice little piece to have. I'll talk about my second one right away then as well. Greg Dulcich, man. He was on bye this week, but you have to roster this guy because did you say he was top 5 over the last 4 weeks?
Yeah.
I mean, look, and he's only played in 3 of those games. 12, 11, 12. Dulcich has been incredible. In those games, he was the tight end 11, the tight end 7, the tight end 9. Has seen over 50 receiving yards in 2 of those games. He's caught a touchdown in there as well. Like Big D, baby. He needs to be on your team. He needs to be
For
on your
sure.
team because tight ends like him don't come around. And he's going to be your one waiver wire tight end ad that's going to pay off this year. So if
Yep.
you're desperate for a tight end, go get Greg Dulcich.
Yep. And Kate Otten is mine. He's another tight end. He's not the same as Dulcich, where I'm rostering him and play him every single week, but I think he is a good streaming option. Like Lucas said, without Brait, he's been getting some pretty good volume. He's been tight end 11 over the last 5 weeks, and he did see a lot of volume last week. He's a guy I would chase. Brady does like his tight ends in the red zone.
He does indeed. And as long as Mike Williams is out and Keenan Allen, look, he already said he's not going to play until he's 100% healthy. And the fact he played right before the bye and came out of the bye not healthy,
Yeah.
I'm not too optimistic for Keenan Allen moving forward. That means you should go get DeAndre Carter, who's on the field for 83% of the snaps on Sunday. He had a wide receiver 26 finish this week, so he finished in flex territory. 10.3 fantasy points, 6 targets, 5 receptions for 53 yards. He's seen 5 targets each of the past 3 weeks. And before the bye against Seattle, he saw 94% of the snaps. So when these two, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, aren't out on the field, DeAndre Carter is going to be. We're assuming Josh Palmer's picked up in your league. If he's not, Josh Palmer's the priority over DeAndre Carter. But in 12-man sleeper leagues, let me check Josh Palmer's roster percentage quick. He's rostered in 75% of sleeper leagues, yes. And DeAndre Carter, on the flip side, I believe he's only rostered in like 30 or so. And I'm going to confirm that number for you here. He is rostered in 42% of leagues. So, yeah, go out and get DeAndre Carter while you still can.
Definitely.
As well. So to recap, Mecole Hardman, Jeff Wilson, Cade Otton, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Greg Dulcich, DeAndre Carter. And frankly, if we had to order those, Cameron, what's the order you're throwing them in?
If I'm putting them in order, I'm probably going Mecole Hardman. I'm probably actually going to go Greg Dulcich, Mecole Hardman, Jeff Wilson, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Cade Otton, DeAndre Carter.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with that, except I'm going to put Greg 1. I am going to put Mecole 2, Jeff Wilson, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Cade Otton, DeAndre Carter. I would agree. That's the order I would go in as well. Anything you want to quick add before we wrap out this episode?
Getting close to playoff time, so you guys. Now is when you go find your studs. Now is when you really start, especially if you're 6-2 or whatever, or gonna be 7-2, 6-3 after this week. You're okay to lose a week or two, and you can sacrifice a guy on a bye to go get a stud.
Yep, absolutely. If you're top of the league, this is when you start building your super team. That time starts now.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Fantasy Football Fellas podcast. I'm at Lucas Wenzel on Twitter, CamLaw317 for Cameron. Follow the fellas accounts as well. FF Fellas on Twitter, the FF Fellas on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on TikTok and YouTube, where you should be subscribed. You should have notifications turned on, just like you should for our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from. And join our community full of league winners. We are coming out with all sorts of new great content for our Chalkboard. We're going to be engaging with you all a ton over there. Down the link or down the description of this audio podcast or YouTube video you are listening to. Thanks again for tuning in. 2 out of 3 of us hanging out tonight. 2 Stooges being dudes,
Sure.
the Fantasy Football Fellas. We will see you all midweek to forecast week 10 of NFL matchups. Deuces.